بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight we've reached Hadith number 18. Hadith number 18 in the book, the explanation and the commentary. Anyone want to recite, inshallah, or read? Anyone want to give it a shot? Bidnillah. Fadl Shaykh. Daddy.
Daddy ibn Aus, Daddy Allah anhu, Adinu Nasiha. Adinu Nasiha.
قلنا لمن يا رسول الله؟
قلنا لمن قال
لله
لكتابه لرسوله لأئمة المسلمين وأماتهم رهبه ومسلم.
جزاك الله خيرا. جزاك الله خيرا. بارك الله فيكم. جزاك الله خيرا. Allah bless you. Make it easy for you. Anyone else, inshallah, before we get started? Fadl Shaykh.
عن معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه قال: قلت يا رسول الله أخبرني بعمل يدخلني للجنة ويباعدني عن النار. قال: لقد سألت عن عظيم وإنه يسير على من يسره الله تعالى عليه، تعبد الله ولا تشرك به شيئا وتقيم الصلاة وتؤتي الزكاة وتصوم رمضان وتحج البيت. ثم قال: ألا أدلك على أبواب الخير؟ الصوم جنة والصدقة تطفئ الخطيئة كما يطفئ الماء النار. ثم قال: ألا أدلك على رأس الأمر وعموده وذروة سنامه. قلت: بلى يا رسول الله. قلت: بلى يا رسول الله. قال: رأس الأمر الإسلام وعموده الصلاة وذروة سنامه الجهاد. ثم قال: ألا أدلك على بملاك ذلك كله؟ قلت: بلى يا نبي الله. فأخذ بلسانه قال: كف عليك هذا. قلت: يا نبي الله، وإنا لمؤاخذون بما نتكلم به. قال: ثقلتك أمك يا معاذ. وهل يكب الناس في النار على وجوههم أو على مناخرهم إلا حصائد ألسنتهم. رواه الترمذي قال حديث حسن صحيح.
جزاك الله خيرا. بارك الله فيكم. أحسنتم. ما شاء الله. طيب. Anyone else, inshallah? Let's get started. Bismillah. Please, brothers and sisters watching online, make sure that you practice. If you already haven't memorized them, make sure that you are at home. If you're watching the live stream, make sure that you make the memory as well to your wife, your husband, your roommate, your classmate, your friend, your colleague. If you have to do it with yourself, in the mirror, record yourself, close the book, shut the tablet off, whatever you have to do, bidnillah, to make sure that you're practicing on the memory as well. And if you've already memorized the 40 Hadith of Nawawi, you have to make review. Gotta make review. If you don't have the time to make review because you're doing much bigger books, you're studying other subjects, then try to cheat. Try to kill two birds with one stone. Make review through teaching. Review the book through teaching the book. You have 10 other books that you've memorized. You may not have time to go all the way back to the beginning. So therefore you have to maximize. You have to have one slingshot and aim for two birds. I don't have the time to do this book, that book, this book, that book. But I do have a student, or I have my little son, or I just got married, my wife, or I'm a teacher at an Islamic school, or I'm an imam. That's going to be my Friday khutbah. Every week is going to be 40 Hadith Nawawi, in which you can do multitask. But it's very important to make review. And that's why many of the scholars of Hadith, from among the earliest Muslims, they would say, Mudhakaratul Hadith hayatuhu, or Mudhakaratul Ilmi hayatuhu. They would say that the life, the soul, the lifeblood of knowledge is revision. That's the secret. Revision, revision, and revision. Repetition. How do you memorize these hadiths? What type of honey do you eat? What type of dates do you have? What school do you go to? What degree? What kada? How this kada? How do I get repetition? Gotta repeat it. You gotta keep familiarizing yourself with it. And one of the easiest ways of doing that, after you yourself have memorized it, is to teach it. Every time you teach someone, you get firmer. You get the reward from Allah bi'idhnillah, and you pay tax on your ilm, zakat. You have to give 2.5 of the knowledge that you've amassed. So Allah has blessed you to study in Mauritania. He's allowed you to study in Pakistan. He allowed you to study in Lebanon, wherever you studied Islam, and you've memorized a lot, you've learned a lot. You have to pay the zakat on the knowledge. And if you don't, then you've hoarded that ilm. And if you hoard knowledge, we all know the punishment of hoarding wealth. And the greatest wealth is ilm. And no doubt, knowledge is superior to money. Every time you spend money, you get less. Every time you spend ilm, you get more. You have to protect money. Knowledge protects you. And there's so many other comparisons of the superiority of knowledge over the superiority of wealth. All right? So it's very important to review, and it's very important to teach and to pay the tax. And you don't want to be a miser with the ilm. So you only have 24 hours out of the day. You have kids, you have work, you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to run and jog, you have to do so many things. You have to maximize your time now. Gotta maximize your time. And one of the ways of doing that is to teach or to review and revise through teaching. Through teaching. And Allah knows best. طيب. Hadith number 18 says, عن أبي ذر ومعاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن. وفي بعض النسخ حسن صحيح. عن أبي ذر ومعاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن وفي بعض النسخ حسن صحيح. See here, this version that we're reading from is a bit different than the version of Nawawi with regards to the kunya of the Sahabi. The kunya of the Sahabi, Abu Fulan, and Fulan. Here he just mentions their name. طيب. The hadith, it says, narrated by Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, and it's also been narrated by Mu'adh ibn Jabal. Two companions narrated the same report. The Prophet ﷺ said the following three things. اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear Allah wherever you may be. وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها. And when you make a bad deed, immediately follow it up with a good deed, which will erase that bad deed. وَخَالِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And treat people honorably. Treat people with respect. Treat people with dignity. The Tirmidhi has collected this hadith, and he said about it is Hasan, and some versions of his book state that he said Hasanun Sahih. So the words of the Prophet ﷺ here in this narration, hadith number 18, fear Allah wherever you are, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed which will erase that bad deed, and treat the people honorably. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah from the 8th century, he says regarding this hadith, فهذه الوصية وصية عظيمة جامعة لحقوق الله وحقوق عباده فإن حق الله على عباده أن يتقوه حق تقاته والتقوى وصية الله للأولين والآخرين قال تعالى وَلَقَدْ وَصَيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. He says that this advice here is tremendous advice. عظيمة, tremendous. And it is very comprehensive. This is a solid pound, solid lump. This hadith here is tremendous and it's weighty, it's mighty. And it includes, it entails, it wraps up, it summarizes all of the rights and responsibilities. The rights of Allah and the rights of the servants of Allah, and of course the rights that you have over your own self. He says that this wasiyah, this advice, this command, this instruction, or these instructions, first and foremost, azimatun. It's very heavy. It's not a small thing. It's tremendous advice. And not only is it tremendous, but it is comprehensive of everything that you need to do. All of the duties and responsibilities. Number one, or A, the right that you have with regards to Allah. Allah, what He deserves from you. Number two, the right that your own soul, your own inner self deserves from your outer self. Heart and mind, body, etc. Number three, the rights that the humans have over you. Your neighbor, your boss, your employee, your secretary, your bodyguard, your supervisor, your teacher, your pupil, your classmate, your wife, your husband, your stepson, your stepdaughter, your real daughter, your real son, your grandmother, your uncle, your enemy. Any person that you come across, they have rights over you, responsibilities that you owe them, etc. So there are three categories now. Category 1 or category A, Allah's rights. Category 2, category B, the rights of yourself over yourself. Category 3 or C, the rights that the other humans deserve and should expect from you. So that's what this hadith is talking about. So, what part of the hadith discusses Allah's rights? What part of the hadith discusses the rights of Allah?
The first part.
Which says what?
Fear Allah wherever you are.
Fear Allah wherever you are. The haqq of Allah. It's constant, 24/7. Number 2, the right of the self. Where's that manifested in the hadith? When you make a bad deed, in other words, when you sin, you have done what?
Harmed yourself.
You've harmed yourself. You've been a bad person to your own self. And that's a deep concept in itself. To harm one's own self. You've done bad to yourself, now you got to fix it. Not later on, not delay it, but immediately. Immediately. And the beauty of it, the beauty of Islam is that Allah Azza wa Jal not only forgives you, pardons you, it's erased. Tamhuha. It's not there anymore. Last but not least is what? The Prophet says what? Treat the people honorably, respectfully, dignified. Wherever that person is, whatever relationship you have with that person, even your enemy. And Al-Islam, your foe, has a right over you. Whatever that right may be. Whatever that haqq is. And there are things that you can and cannot do even in the time of war. Even at the time of what? The time of war. Everyone understands this is obviously years before the Geneva Convention. Things that you cannot do to an enemy. Things that you cannot do to a prisoner. It's khuluq hasan. Whatever is considered khuluq hasan. Right. Alright. He says here, first and foremost is the taqwa of Allah. And the taqwa of Allah is something that the servant has to give to Allah 100%. And what's meant by giving Allah his taqwa, that he deserves 100%, is effort. And not 100% of perfection. Because is it possible for a person to fear Allah haqqa tuqatihi? Can you give Allah the taqwa? Can you worship him and obey him and remember him like he truly deserves? Maybe, maybe not. But for sure, you can put your all into it. Like sports. You may not be the best player. You may not be the fastest. You may not be the fanciest. You may not be the strongest. You may not have the most talent. But it's no reason why you give 70% of effort. It's no reason why you don't give your all. Give it your best. Give it your best. It's not the best. I've had better. I've seen better. But at least I know that you what? You tried. You did all that you could possibly do. So the haqq of Allah, the right of Allah, he says, is for us to fear Allah haqqa tuqatihi. And this was the advice of Allah to every single human being. Those of old and those of new. Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, verse 131, وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Allah says, indeed, the Jews and the Christians were given this piece of advice. Those who got the scripture before you, وَصَّيْنَا, we gave them this wasiyah, this advice and this instruction. وَإِيَّاكُمْ, and you as well. Muslims are no different. And that is to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَصْلُ التَّقْوَى أن يجعل العبد بينه وبين ما يخافه ويحذره ويقاية تقيه منه. فتقوى العبد لربه أن يجعل بينه وبين ما يخشاه من ربه من غضبه وسخطه وعقابه وقاية تقيه من ذلك وهو فعل طاعته واجتناب معاصيه. And taqwa originally means protection, shielding. It's insurance. It's a guard between that which you fear, that which you're terrified and afraid of. And the greatest thing to fear, and the greatest thing to be terrified and scared of is Allah's wrath, Allah's anger, Allah's punishment. That's the most terrifying thing. Allah punishing me. Allah's anger, his wrath, his punishment, and this is by performing the obedience and avoiding the disobedience. Period. Done. Simplicity. That's taqwa. Doing that which is wajib, avoiding that which is haram. Trying your best to perform the recommended acts, and trying your best to avoid the disliked acts. That's what taqwa is. There's no special color, or club, or dress, or gender, or height, or weight. It's not taqwa. Taqwa is implementing the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. Once you've done that successfully, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you'll be from the muttaqeen. Inshallah. Ibn Rajab, he says, speaking on the issues regarding taqwa, وَتَارَةً تُضَافُ التَّقْوَى إِلَى اسْمِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ وَقَوْلِهِ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. فإذا أضيفت التقوى إليه سبحانه وتعالى فالمعنى اتقوا سخطه وغضبه وأعظم ما يتقى وعن ذلك ينشأ عقابه الدنيوي والأخروي. قال تعالى ويحذركم الله نفسه. وقال تعالى هو أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. فهو سبحانه أهل أن يخشى ويهاب ويجلى ويعظم في صدور عباده حتى يعبدوه ويطيعوه لما يستحقه من الإجلال والإكرام وصفات الكبرياء والعظمة وقوة البطش وشدة البأس. Now he talks about taqwa. Now, before we read this or translate it, my question to you is, what has Allah told us to fear in the Quran? What's an example of something that Allah told us to be afraid of or scared of? Fire. Perfect answer. Fear the fire. Type. What else? Fadla Shaykh.
Allah tells us to fear that He sees and knows all that we do.
Fear Him, Himself. Tayyib. What else we got? Fear shirk. Fear falling into shirk. Tayyib. What else we got?
Fear the day.
Fear a day. Fear a period of time. Tayyib. What else? Anything else? There's more. Fear of fitna. There won't befall those who have done wrong exclusively. Right? وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً. Fear of fitna. Tayyib. What else?
Fear Allah's wrath.
Fear His wrath. Tayyib. Okay. So the first answer says to fear a day. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا. Fear a day. Right? Fear a day. Right? So Allah is telling us to be afraid of something other than Him based off of your answers. Fear fire and fear a day. Correct? And also fear of fitna. So taqwa is attributed to different things. Allah says, be scared, be terrified, be wary of this, of that, of third, fourth, fifth, etc. The greatest thing, the scariest thing is what? Is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wrath of Allah. The wrath of Allah. So I have to be afraid of the fire, which is the wrath of Allah. I have to be afraid of a fitna, a tribulation that may come between me and my heart. I may get involved in something and I may not be able to get out of that thing. That's a fitna. Or, as scholars of Islam say, some of the scholars they say that the true meaning of fitna is inqilab. They say is to flip, in which you no longer see the evil as evil. The craziness is normal. That's crazy. What? That's crazy. But that's what? That's normal. That's the style now. That's the custom now. That's fashion. That's normal behavior. That's acceptable behavior. Well, you say like, that's crazy, subhanAllah. But now in 2020, that's what? Normal. That's madness. That's insanity. For Muslims to do this to each other, we say that's politics. That's politics, son. Now you understand how the world works. So when the Muslims no longer see the batil as batil, they don't see the haqq as haqq. And some scholars of Islam, they say Muslims falling into sins, doing crimes, and they admit and acknowledge that it's wrong, is not the fitna, the real fitna. No matter how terrible the sin may be. But at least he knows that it's wrong. That's messed up. I know I'm not the best Muslim, okay? I already know. You don't got to say nothing to me. I know. Versus a brother coming in the masjid looking like it's nothing wrong with it. What? What are you looking at me for? What's the problem? What you're wearing, what you smell like, what you're doing, whatever. It's normal. You got a problem? Versus a brother, oh man, I'm sorry. I know. He takes it off. Feels bad. He knows that it's wrong. But at least he's at the masjid. Versus him coming in the masjid like what? The problem is with what? Is with you. You bugging out. This is normal. This is how people dress. So just think about that now. Think about the concept of your eyes being switched and inverted, changed. You no longer see it the same way anymore. Your perception, even though you have sight. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells us to be afraid of many things. And the scariest thing is Allah's wrath, His anger. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِينَ. So Ibn Rajab rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here that Allah Azza wa Jal, in the Quran, He mentions taqwa with regards to a day. A day. طيب. He says, moving forward in summary, وَتَارَةً تُضَافُ التَّقْوَى إِلَى عِقَابِ اللَّهِ وَإِلَى مَكَانِهِ كَالنَّارِ أو إِلَى زَمَانِهِ كَيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. A place and a time, the day of judgment, His punishment, so on and so forth. ويدخل في التقوى الكاملة فعل الواجبات وترك المحرمات والشبهات وربما دخل فيها بعد ذلك فعل المندوبات وترك المكروهات وهي أعلى درجات التقوى. قال الله تعالى ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب ولا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون. إلى أن قال رحمه الله تعالى. طيب. He then says here, included in taqwa, as we've just explained to you, the obligatory acts to be performed, the haram acts to be avoided, the recommended acts to be performed, and the disliked acts to be avoided. All of that is included in taqwa. That is the pious person. A pious person is not someone who just holds their head down, or dresses a certain way, or looks a certain way, or who shakes and trembles and looks frail. The pious Muslim is the one who's following the Quran and the Sunnah. Prayer, zakah, fasting, hajj, etc. That's what piety is. Not how you walk and talk and this and that. Unless walking and talking is mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. Hadith says walk like this. The Quran says talk like that. A culture, a style, an outward appearance that's not mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah does not necessitate piety. And this is extremely important for us to understand what taqwa is. What taqwa is. Everybody clear on this? Taqwa isn't some special and exotic thing. It's basic fundamental Islam. Fear Allah, get up, wake up and pray. Fear Allah, go to sleep. Fear Allah by doing this that you have to. Fear Allah by staying away from that thing that your nafs wants. And you have the ability to do. I can do it. I can get away with it. Nobody knows about it. You don't see me. You don't hear me. I can cover it up. I can hide it from the people. It's only one that is watching you right now, and that's Allah. And I'll walk away from that thing. That is taqwa. And of course, included in that are many different what? Levels. Those who make the 5 daily prayers, they're upon taqwa. Those who pray at night, witr, tahajjud, that's a higher level of what? Higher level of taqwa. Those who make repentance from a sin, they're performing taqwa. Those who avoid the sin are what? Higher level. So there are levels and degrees and ranks of taqwa. Tayyib. Moving forward. One of the most comprehensive definitions of taqwa, he says, وَقَالَ طَلْقُ بْنُ حَبِيبٍ التقوى أن تعمل بطاعة الله على نور من الله ترجو ثواب الله وأن تترك معصية الله على نور من الله تخاف عقاب الله. What is the definition? Simple, easy, basic understanding of taqwa. Some of the early Muslims, they would say, is for you to act upon Allah's obedience على نور من الله ترجو ثواب الله. Listen to this definition. It's very, very important. Number one, he says, أن تعمل بطاعة الله. It's for you to obey Allah. That's taqwa. Number two, ala nurin min Allah, upon a light from Allah. Number three, tarju thawab Allah, seeking Allah's reward. That includes knowledge, that includes sincerity, and that includes physical movement. Taqwa is not just something mystical, metaphysical, just in the heart or in the mind. He clearly said ta'mala. You have to work deeds. Number two, how do you work those deeds? What I think, what you think, what your culture says, your sheikh, your leader, your president, your king, your dream. He said, ala nurin min Allah. It has to be a light, and that light is knowledge. The more knowledge that you have, hopefully the more taqwa that you'll have. And this is the meaning of the verse in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. The only servants who fear Allah are the learned servants, the ulama, those who have knowledge. And it's presupposed that the more knowledge you have of Allah and His names and His attributes and of the religion, your taqwa is supposed to be higher. It's presupposed, I said. Because you could be someone who's learned, but you're evil. Waliyadu billah. You can be learned or hypocritical. You could be learned for other reasons as well. That's what I said, presupposed. So therefore, number one, the first component of taqwa is physical action. You got to sweat. You can't work out watching a video at home, correct? My muscles are not going to grow. I'm not going to get more stamina by me just sitting in the gym watching someone else on the treadmill or lifting or pumping iron. It just doesn't work like that, does it? So why do Muslims think and feel that the taqwa comes by sitting back and relaxing? I'm in my bed, I'm on my sofa, I'm sitting down, and I'm just going to get taqwa. This person who just sits back and relaxes has more taqwa than the one who's doing it. That's a huge problem. And this is one of the greatest tricks of shaitan. teaching us and whispering to us is that we can achieve loftiness without blood, sweat, and tears. It's a major problem. And the same applies to the example or the analogy that I made. Working out, sports. How many videos you watch on YouTube? Arnold Schwarzenegger, this athlete, this Hall of Famer, this one. If you sit down, you put on autoplay, you can spend 10 hours watching motivational videos. Motivational workout videos, highlight reel, this one, that one, his 10 rules of success, his 5 points, his golden rules, his 3 keys, his regimen, his diet. Well, how much time are you actually what? Muscles aching. So it's very subtle trick of shaitan. And the same applies to knowledge. Oh, Sheikh Fulan, he went here. MashaAllah, he did this. Kada, MashaAllah. Well, how many hours are you reading and studying and memorizing and reviewing? So it's only 10% inspiration, guys. 90% perspiration. 10% of you watching and listening. That's nice. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he said, these are the 7 rules of success. To do this, get rid of that, 10%. Another 90% has to you actually trying to be like what? The Terminator. Everyone understand this? You actually working out. So he said, and ta'mala, for you to do what? Act upon Allah's obedience. Number 2, ala nurin min Allah. It has to be based off of a light, and that light is knowledge. You can't act upon what you think and feel. There is no piety in Islam without knowledge. And that's why knowledge is the foundation of the religion. The more knowledge, the stronger the religion. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. First command, O Muhammad, read. Reading is fundamental. Knowledge is fundamental. That's the first step of any successful dawah program. Any successful dawah movement has to be based off of knowledge and a strong dosage of it. Strong dosage of it. A household, a community has to be based off of light. Without light, you can't see. And if you can't see, you're going to crash or walk into something. Or something's going to crash and walk into you. Listen to the difference now. Listen to this. It's not the same. Without your light, the light that you send out, you may run into something. You may crash into something. And if there's nothing that reflects off of you, somebody may what? Run into you like a runner. They have the reflectors on their backs. They can see in front of them, but they're letting the car or another bicycle let them know that what? Don't run into me. And that's ilm al-Islam. You avoid certain things because you have knowledge. You don't run into misguidance and error. And certain people avoid you because of that ilm. Certain people, they won't bring nonsense your way. Because Fulan, he don't have time to gossip and talk about that. He's always in the masjid reading the Quran. He wants to talk about Arabic. He wants to talk about this. He wants to discuss that. Number 3, he said, Tarju thawab Allah. You have to look forward to Allah's reward. In other words, you don't be pious and righteous and seek knowledge just for the people to clap their hands and say, MashaAllah, brother Fulan is pious. Sister Fulan is pious. Brother Fulan is nice. He's a nice brother. He's a cool brother. You have to do it sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you just play it backwards. And for you to أن تترك معصية الله تخشى على نور من الله تخشى عقاب الله. Play it backwards now. To leave off Allah's disobedience. Fearing Allah's punishment based off of the light from Allah as well. You have to have knowledge of what to avoid. You have to have knowledge of what to stay away from. What's haram. What's makruh. Ilm once again. And you have to do it sincerely. Don't stop smoking cigarettes for someone to say he stopped. Don't stop drinking just because the person is praising you. Leave off the haram stuff. Only fearing Allah's punishment. Inspiration? Yes. An incentive? I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes because my daughter caught me. And she made me cry. She made me feel bad. She said, Abby, Muslims don't smoke cigarettes. Why are you smoking? I see that you're hiding cigarettes. I smell it on your breath. You chew gum. You spray the air freshener. But I know you're smoking, Abby. Broke my heart. My little young daughter saw me smoking cigarettes. So that's going to be the drive and the push for me to what? Stop. But the only reason why I'm stop smoking is fearing what? Allah's wrath. Allah's punishment. So many people, when they do obligatory acts, oftentimes they fall into looking for the people's praise. And when they stay away from haram stuff, they oftentimes only do it seeking the people's what? Praise as well. Or seeking the people's harm. Forcing someone and pressuring someone, bullying someone into making tawbah. If you don't take back this statement, that's wrong, We're going to do this to you. We're going to boycott you. We're going to talk about you. We're going to do this. We're going to refute you. And they don't realize that they're bullying someone into Tawbah. Instead of them saying Allah will punish you for misguiding people. You're a speaker, you're a scholar, you're a student of knowledge. You have spread misguidance. And misguidance leads to the fire of hell. Every person that you misguide, you get a sin for it. And the sin of those who follow you. The Prophet ﷺ says, وَمَنْ دَعَا إِلَىٰ ضَلَالَةٍ كَانَ عَلَيْهِ وِزْرُهَا وَوِزْرُ مَنْ تَبِعَهُ لَا يَنْقُصُ مِنْ أَوْزَارِهِمْ شَيْئًا أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Whoever calls to misguidance will get its sin. This is halal and it's not halal. I said in the khutbah, it's permissible to do this. And the Quran and Sunnah say it's not permissible to do that. Or the opposite. Whatever misguidance I spread, I get the sin for it. And I get the sin of every person who listens to it and follows it. 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube, all of them follow me in this horrendous fatwa that I gave. So therefore, we go to you and say, yeah, Sheikh, Jazakallahu khairan, may Allah bless you, your status, but you clearly said something which is in opposition to the Quran and Sunnah. Yeah, Sheikh, you have to take this back. And if you don't, Allah's wrath and Allah's punishment. Not our wrath and what? Our punishment. We're going to tie you down and beat you up if you don't retract that statement. And this is a trick of shaitan. And many people, they fall into bullying people into Tawbah. You're not Allah. You can't accept the Tawbah. You can't guide someone to Tawbah. You can encourage. You can enjoin the good, forbid the evil. But bullying has no place in Islam. And is a filthy act from someone who is attached to knowledge. Someone who's attributed to ilm, to bully someone, is filthy. There's no bullying in Islam. All you do is advise. Even when you discipline someone, you don't bully them. There's no bullying. There's no forcing someone into taking something back. We're going to do this to you. We're going to boycott you. We're going to such and such. The brothers are going to such and such. Be mindful of shaitan's tricks. So you must have sincerity in doing the right thing. And you must have sincerity in what? Staying away from the wrong thing. Everybody got it? So those are the three components of taqwa. It's to do the right thing based off of the right guidance, the knowledge, with the correct intention. Everybody got this? The three pieces of taqwa. Two halves of it. Half number one is the ta'ah, the obedience, the good stuff. Second half is the ma'siyah, the disobedience, the bad stuff. Number one, you got to do it physically. Can't talk about it or think about it. You actually have to physically move your arms and your legs. Number two, you have to have the correct guidance, the ilm. Number three, you got to have the proper intention. So to go to the gym, you actually got to go to the gym. You got to move your foot or your arm or your leg. Then you have to have the proper workout. That's too heavy. That's going to do this to you. That's going to weaken you. That's an advanced thing. You don't need to run these many miles every day. You have to have the proper ilm in the gym. And then you got to be working out for the correct reason. You got to be working out for the correct. Do you want muscle mass or you want strength? You're a boxer. You want a bunch of muscles just to look good, or you want power behind your punches? You have to have the correct niyyah. Why are you lifting those weights? Why are you running all of those miles? Just to say that you ran or to have stamina, so on and so forth. Everyone understand the analogy? You have to have the correct intention with the correct guidance. And the first step is you actually have to what? You got to do it. You got to work. And avoiding the haram stuff, you got to avoid it. You can't be drinking alcohol saying, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. You got to put the cup down. Avoid it. Then you have to know why, know how you're avoiding it. And it has to be done sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa azza wa jal. Right, moving forward. There are many other issues pertaining to this hadith, such as al-wasiyatu bit-taqwa. Giving the people advice with taqwa. When you meet someone, when you leave someone, what do you tell someone when they're about to go on a trip? Have a safe trip. Have a safe flight. Bring me back a gift. Bring me a souvenir. Right? We may say, may Allah bless you. May Allah be with you. Ma salama. Have fun. Take some pictures for me. But do we tell our friends and our family members, have a safe trip? And I advise you to fear Allah in your travels. When you leave someone in a hospital bed, they're not, inshallah, dying, but they're sick. You make dua for them, you pray for them. You say, I advise you to have taqwa of Allah. When your son leaves the home every morning, do you tell him that? Do you tell your daughter, listen, daughter, don't forget to fear Allah wherever you go? Not saying that you're a bad person or evil person, but that's my advice to you. Do we say this? Do we tell our wives, ittaqillah, before you go to this dinner party? Do you tell your husband before he goes out to work, husband, fear Allah? Wahakadha. So the pious predecessors, kanu yatawasawna, he mentions, they used to give each other advice. As Allah says, watawasaw bil haqq, watawasaw bis sabr. They would give each other mutual advice. And it doesn't mean that the person was a bad person. It doesn't mean that they were a nasty person. It doesn't mean that. But it would always keep a healthy, circuit of taqwa. You hear it from me, I hear it from you. Back and forth. Back and forth. And it was always on their minds. Khayr, so that's very, very, extremely important. Tight, moving forward. So we have 3 pieces here. That's the first piece. The second piece says, وَأَتْبِعِ سَيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. Is when you fall into a bad deed, followed up with a good deed. And that good deed would erase the bad deed. What good deed erases what bad deed? Any good deed or a specific good deed? And what bad deed is erased? If you make a major sin, you steal something, you run from the battlefield, you take the wealth of the orphan, you call a pious Muslim sister a whore, zaniya. It's a major sin, right? And there are other major sins as well in Islam. Can you just give sadaqah and it erases it? Can you do any good deed and it erases that sayyah? Or is it something extra? And if there is something extra, what does the hadith mean? The hadith clearly says, tamhuha. It will what? Erase it. So what's meant by that? Everyone understand the question?
But I guess that what erases it has to be equivalent to the act.
Has to be equivalent to the major sin. Tayyib, okay. Any other answers?
Well,
Tawbah. So Tawbah is a good deed. Tayyib, any other answers?
maybe making sadaqah.
Sadaqah.
Some sins against people that you have to, that's
You got to reconcile. Apologize, give them back the money you stole, whatever. And if it's a sin between you and Allah, different story. Tayyib, any other answers? Alright, now we have many ayats in the Quran. One of them says, إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. Allah says that the hasanat, the good things, yudhibna, take away, wash away the bad things. That is a remembrance, a reminder for dhakirin, those who want to make remembrance and want to be reminded. So the Quran says that the hasanat take away the what? Sayyat. Right? Right. Okay. We have the concept of one Jum'ah to the next, 5 daily prayers, Ramadan to Ramadan, mukaffiratun lima baynaha, is the expiation of sin. All sins are wiped away by good deeds, or do you have to make tawbah? I made zina. I accused a pious woman of making zina unjustly, wrongfully. Can I just do a good deed and it wipes it away? Or do I have to make tawbah? You have to make tawbah. Okay, so what does the hadith mean then? When you fall in a bad deed, follow it up with a, and a good deed would do what?
Erase it. But I mean, Tawbah is a good deed.
Okay, right, but the hadith doesn't specify tawbah. It says al-hasana, a good deed. What's meant by this hadith then? What's the fact? What's the benefit of the hadith? If I have to make tawbah, what's the point of me immediately following up with a good deed? Everyone understand the question?
I understand, but it's almost like a trick question.
No question. It has to be a trick question to show that we understand the hadith properly. The hadith says if you make a bad deed, then do what? Follow it up. Listen, the hadith doesn't say just do a good deed. It says atbi'. Follow it up. Meaning what? Right back. Tamhuha. And they will do what? Erase it. That's not necessarily tawbah. No question, it's a good deed for sure. And it's an act of worship, but that's not hasana. He says follow it with a hasana. Istighfar, la. Something else. It's a link that we're missing here.
Depends on the gravity of the sin, doesn't it?
The gravity of the sin. How bad the sin was. So some sins are wiped away by good deeds and other sins aren't, you're saying?
I mean, depending on the sin, it depends on what
Some sins can't be wiped away by what? General good deeds. For sure, Tawbah is a good deed, but we're not talking about that. Certain sins need a stronger type of detergent, certain stains. You can't just rinse that with water. You need what? Some bleach, some right? Ajax. Right? Certain things on the counter you can what? Just use a sponge with water. Certain things you gotta what? You gotta scrub. You need some powerful something to get that out. Right? But the general concept of water wiping away dirt. So some say that what's meant by a good deed doing away with a bad deed is a sala'ir, minor sins, and not the kaba'ir, major sins. And they say that the kaba'ir need what? Tawbah. They say that the major sins need tawbah. You can't just give sadaqah or salah or any other hasana, good deed, without a specific what? Tawbah, except for one thing. It's one good deed. Even those scholars say wipes away all sins, and that's what? Hajj Mabrur. The Hajj which is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessed. Everyone understand this? Right, we'll come back to you, Sheikh. Give me 1 second. Now, so that's one interpretation. Interpretation number 2 is those who say, and the reason, the proof for that is the hadith says, Majtunibatil kaba'ir. The 5 prayers from one week to the next, one Jumu'ah to the next, etc. Majtunibatil kaba'ir. As long as the major sins are avoided. In other words, that get out of jail free card is only for minor offenses. Clear? You get pulled over by a police officer, you pull out a card, you're a friend of someone in the precinct, he may what? Give you a pass because of you someone in your family is a police officer, etc. Yeah, you got the card, right? But if you're doing 100 or something crazy, what? He said, not even the card can what?
Well, you might let you go for 100.
But
Or if you just robbed the bank.
something crazy, yeah.
Sorry,
The major offenses say what? I can't help you here. Everyone understand this? The card has weight. It has some value, but only for what? Certain violations. So the general principle is of this hadith and other ayats, as we said in other hadiths, is that good deeds do what? Wipe away what? Sins. But not the major sins. Everyone understand this? Not the major sins. Some scholars, they say Hajj, and others, they say certain good deeds can wipe away even a major sin. Like the narration of the woman from Bani Israel who was a prostitute. And she saw the dog licking the dry earth. The dog was starving, dying of thirst. And she took off her boot or her sock, her khuf, and she put it in a well, and she brought up some water, and she gave the dog water to drink. And Allah appreciated what she did, and He forgave her. And obviously prostitution is haram in all of the legislatures. Musa, Isa, every prophet, prostitution and zina was haram. It was a major sin. But they say that she had mercy, kindness, and softness in her heart, even though she was making all of those major sins. Zina is a major sin. Prostitution is another major sin. Eating a haram wealth that comes from prostitution is also a what? Another major sin. There's so many sins that are combined in prostitution. How you dress, what you say, what you do, and the list goes on. There may be 10 major sins in one act of prostitution. How does a prostitute dress? Her dress, that's a sin. How does she speak and talk? What you do with your tongue, saying ill things is a what? Is a sin. Eating haram wealth is a what? Sin. Zina is a sin. Breaking up a family is a sin. And there may be 10 things in one act. But Allah forgave her because she had this high level of sincerity in her heart. No one was around. She could have let the dog starve to death. It was a dog. A dog in the street. Big deal. But for you to stop your car, get out, help the dog on the side, it shows that you have some what? Some type of tenderness in your heart. And no one is watching you now. And it's not like you do charity in front of the people. Oh, he's so kind. Look what he did. He pulled over to help out the injured dog on the side of the road. It's a dark road. No one sees you. It's like littering, right? You rode on the window, what? You toss out of nobody watching you. Versus you need to get rid of something out your car. You said, no, wait, I'm going to put it in the trash can. Everyone understand the power of knowing that people are watching you, right or wrong? You know that people are watching you. versus you do it solely because it's the right thing to do, or you stay away from it because it's the what? It's not right to litter. So the hadith states that the woman was forgiven by Allah because she gave a dog a cup of water to drink. Allahu Akbar. So what do you think about other acts of ibadah that are bigger and greater? So some scholars say that the default rule is that minor sins are expiated by good deeds. Major sins need tawbah. There may be some instances in which a major sin could be expiated by a good deed. Everybody understand the difference? Once more. Point A. Hasanats, good deeds, do take away what? Bad deeds. But those bad deeds are the minor sins. Point 2. Major sins can be expiated as well. But they need what? Repentance. Point 3. Some of them say there are certain good deeds. If they're done in a right way, a proper way, necessary strength, they could possibly do away with some bad deeds without tawbah. She didn't make tawbah for her prostitution. She fed the dog water. Everyone understand this here? Khayr inshallah. Tayyib. That's number 2. Then we have, last but not least, وَخَلِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ, and treat people honorably and respectfully. Treat people honorably and respectfully. Honorably and respectfully includes what's mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. You see your brother, smile on his face. Shake your brother's hand. Be generous to your guest. Entertain your guest. Look after your wife. Respect your husband, etc., etc., etc. And honorably also includes the customs of the people. So in Philly, that's not how you treat someone that's your friend. It's not in the Quran, it's not in the Sunnah that I have to give you some of my tea. It doesn't state that. But I come from a place in which if I'm drinking tea and I don't offer you a cup, I haven't treated you honorably. I haven't honored you. Even though it doesn't state in the Quran and the Sunnah that I have to what? Give you a cup of tea. So culture and custom has a place, what? In Islam. Tradition has a place in Islam. And there's a problem with dawah. Many people, they think and they feel is that there's no room for tradition and custom and culture. That's wrong. And then there are others who take the other extreme. They take cultural norms and they turn them into the rulings of Islam. Everyone understand this? So the rule is, as long as it doesn't go against the Quran and the Sunnah, there's nothing wrong with tradition and customs. It's nothing wrong with that. After Jumu'ah, we go out and eat. On this day, we do this. On the Eid, we wear these type of shoes. We play football, method, and the brothers on this day and that day. That's not ibadah. That's not worship. That's a custom. That's a tradition. And it's also a means of honoring and respecting your brother, your guest, your wife, your daughter, anyone that you have to deal with. Everyone understand this? So therefore, the Quran and the Sunnah give rules. My wife, I have to feed her. I have to clothe her. I have to house her. I have to provide for her medical attention. Basic rights of the husband or the wife or the husband, right? That's the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, culturally, what's meant by honoring your wife? You take out to dinner every now and then. So a sister, she comes to the masjid and she complains. She says, my husband never takes me out. He never takes me out for dinner. And the brother says, I don't have to take you out for dinner, sister. I don't have to take you out. The imam of the masjid, he says, Akhi, you know, you need a fair law. You should take your wife out to dinner. You need some sadaqah. There's no shame in it. We can help you out. We'll give you some money. Take her out to dinner. It doesn't have to be an expensive, fancy 5-star restaurant. Take her out. Let's get something to eat, inshallah. Bismillah. Take your wife out. That's the complaint that she made. And the brother, he goes and he says, this imam, he took the side of the woman. This imam, he's ignorant. This imam, he's upon innovation. He's upon bid'ah. He said that it's obligatory for me to take my wife out to dinner. This imam is not upon the Quran and the Sunnah. And he doesn't realize that the imam, what he's saying is correct. The Quran and Sunnah doesn't say that he has to take his wife out to dinner. It doesn't say that. But the custom, the tradition, and the culture does. Not every day. Not every night. Not every meal. But what? Every now and then you take your wife out. And if you don't ever take your wife out to dinner in this culture, you have not treated your wife what? Bil ma'ruf. You haven't treated her honorably. خَالِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And the same applies to your son, your daughter, your teacher, etc. So the first tier is the Quran and what? Sunnah. Culture, custom, tradition. As long as it does not go against the Quran and Sunnah, it's what? Totally fine. It's what? Totally fine. And if you don't do those cultural or traditional norms that are accepted by all of the people, or most of the people, you haven't honored whatever or whoever you're supposed to honor. Teacher, student, wife, husband, etc. Everyone understand the rule? And this is the trick of the shaitan as well. Everything in Islam is culturally based. Nothing in Islam is what? Culturally based. He uses both of them to mislead the people. How you dress, how you eat, how you walk, and how you talk. There's nothing wrong with you sticking to your own culture, your own custom. As long as it doesn't go against the Quran and the Sunnah. That's the balance. Khairan, inshallah. We'll stop here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows the best. And we ask him to give us all success to all that which was good in this life and hereafter. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Have any questions here from the brothers or the sisters on the hadith before we stop? Anybody? Fadl Sheikh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Allah gives us some examples in the Quran, and from the Sunnah. A couple of them are like when you commit a sin in fasting. There's Hadith and also Quran that if you intentionally break a fast or commit a sin, then in order to make up for that, you have to fast a certain number of days. There are things that you do that Allah the Prophet says you should free the prisoner is an expiation, fasting, and other things like that are things that expiate for major sins. Major sins, again, is like not fasting properly, breaking the fast when you're not supposed to. Allah tells us we should fast a certain number of days to make up for that. Feeding the poor. There are other things too when you commit sins that you can do to make up for the sin.
Jazakallah khairan. Expiation. Could be expiation, could be a punishment, hudud, and things like this. Khairan inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Thank you very much.
On that note,
Fadl.
the ones that say freeing a slave, how do the scholars of today say, since there's no official slavery around, what would a person do if the punishment was,
Clear.
expiation was that?
Clear. Well, sorry. If it's a punishment in which the first step or the only step is to free a slave, that's one issue. Versus freeing a slave may be the third step. If you can't, then emancipate a slave. So if that's the first step or the only step, and there's no official slavery, then perhaps you're gonna have to go back to someone who has some type of practical knowledge of the cost of a slave. Of course, that's subjective. A woman versus a man. Okay, child, certain races. When you read about slavery in this country and other countries, certain slaves are far more valuable than other slaves. Genetically. Just by race. This one goes more than that one. So that's going to be an issue. Okay, so bidnillahi ta'ala, the general ruling of taking the old or the ancient values and amounts and modernizing the calculation today. There are many things like this. Grams, kilos, mud, sa', and also bidnillahi ta'ala, tahriru raqabah, freeing a slave, emancipating a slave. So therefore, if there's no official slavery, and that's the specific expiation or atonement for that act, then inshallah ta'ala go back to the qima, the cost of it. And to find out the cost of it, you're going to have to speak with someone who, as I said, practical knowledge of that. And I'm sure there, what? You'll find it. Bismillah. Wallahu alam. Naam, Sheikh.
Prisoner. Free the prisoner is unjustly in prison.
Okay. Many things, Sheikh. Many types of expiations Zakat, giving zakat, wafir riqab, all right? The concept of fekul ani, freeing a prisoner, etc. Many ways of doing an obligatory expiation or giving sadaqah. Or giving sadaqah. With regards to the zakat money being spent, and actual sadaqah. And obviously the difference between a prisoner versus freeing a slave. Two different levels. A prisoner, the person is free. Or they're a slave, but not a slave of the captor. He belongs here. Free him. This is the ransom. Versus a slave, and you make that slave a free man or a free woman. You may go. You're no longer a slave. Khalas. Mathalan. So the two different aspects, sometimes they overlap. Wallahu alam. Go ahead, Akhi.
So when you pass away, there are certain things that are able to still get you good deeds. I guess you would say, just like my question would just be like, what are some of those things like?
Clear. Crystal clear. The general concept is a legacy. A legacy. And a legacy can be summed up in three things. Three things, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Financial legacy, literal or a legacy of literacy, of knowledge, of science, and legacy of genes, legacy of blood. So number one is wealth. Number two is ilm, knowledge. And number three is of actual flesh and blood. So first and foremost, the money that you spend not on a coming or going charitable cause or project, but something that you spend your money on, it's built, it's established, it's erected, and it remains. Whatever that thing may be, a school, a masjid, a road, a well, or a water fountain. A water fountain, all right? A water fountain, a public water fountain, a water fountain for the Muslims, mathalan, waqf, an endowment. Then we have the legacy of knowledge. You did one class in this masjid. 10 people were there. They benefited. They passed it on to another 10 people. They recorded it. Someone transcribed it into a book. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, people we read the books. Ibn Rajab. How many centuries ago did he die? And we're doing what? Reading his work. Benefiting from his work. Number three is your son or your daughter that prays for you. And the only reason, bi'idhnillah, why the son is praying for you and they're righteous, waladin salih, it says, a righteous son, is because he came from good stock. And we're talking about stock of iman, not of blood. That's because you and your wife, that was your wife, not your girlfriend. You didn't abuse your wife. You looked after your wife. You fed your wife. You took your wife to the doctors. You gave her good medical care. The baby was born healthy. You gave the baby a good Muslim name. You did this for the baby. You did that for the baby. You raised the baby. The baby was a Chihuahua scout. The baby was studying the Quran. The baby, the young man. And he grows up. Abdurrahman is the baby's name. Abdurrahman. That's what my father called me. My mother gave me that name. They taught me to pray. They taught me to fear Allah. They taught me to do this. They taught me to do that. You die. You leave this world. They pray for you. Oh Allah, forgive my father. Forgive his shortcomings. Oh Allah, reward my mother for all of the days she was there. We had food on the table. Even if she had no money, it was never a hungry night in this household. That righteous child isn't made overnight. That righteous child is a lifetime in the making. And FYI, the righteous child that prays for the person when they go, and you get the reward for it in your grave, is something that started before the child is even born. The righteous child is, you work on it before you even consummate a marriage, looking for a wife. And where does she come from? What's her background? What's her character? The dua that you make when you get married to the sister, the prayers that you make with her. Kullu shay. The baby in the womb, the trauma in the womb versus the good, peaceful environment for the womb, the baby in the womb. So therefore, sadaqah jariyah, continuous charity, an endowment, something that you built that remains and the people keep eating from it, they keep benefiting from it. Hundreds of years after you've died, you built this school or this park or whatever it may be. Number two is knowledge. Yuntafa'u bihi. Listen carefully to the words of the Prophet ﷺ. Beneficial knowledge, not fluff and filler, but actual content. Ilm nafi', real knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. Number 3 is the righteous child that makes dua for you even though you've died 20 years ago, 50 years ago. They're still praying for you. And it could be your grandson, your granddaughter, still making dua for you, let alone the only reason after Allah's mercy why they're praying is because you did what? You taught him how to pray. He's reciting the Quran because you gave him his first mushaf. You taught him Alif Ba Ta. Now this son is a scholar of Islam, touring the world, lecturing on Islam, and you were his first teacher. Wahakadha. Clear on that? So those are the 3 main things that you reap the benefit from after you what? After you die in your grave. Clear, inshallah?
And there's one more question. So I know with certain things that say that, like, I guess for one example would be if you help build a masjid, or if you recite ayatul kursi after every prayer, things that are said that will get you, like, I know help building a masjid will help to build you
A house in paradise.
paradise. So if you recite ayatul kursi after every prayer, only thing between you and paradise is I forgot exactly what that one is, but I know certain things like that help
Clear.
with things in general.
Clear.
Right. So a part of that's part of the question. Things that get you there, but does that necessarily mean that you will be there?
Clear. If you build a masjid for Allah's sake, بُنِيَ لَهُ مِثْلُهُ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. The hadith says, similar thing will be made for you in paradise. No doubt. You'll be there, بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ ta'ala. You'll be there. And the other hadiths to say a person won't smell paradise, the fragrance of it, a person won't drink the wine of paradise, that can also be interpreted to mean that you what? Won't go to paradise. So if the house is going to be built for you, or the date palm tree, or this road, or this palace, yes. That is, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, including 2 things. Number 1, you going to Jannah. Number 2, you having a higher rank and a special virtue in paradise. Clear? So it means both of those things. And the opposite as well. Waliyadu billah. And Allah knows best. Khair, inshallah. Any other questions here? Fadal akhi.
My question is compartmentalized. General question, but it's based off of your nafs, right? Say that you commit a sin with the intentions of doing a good deed, thinking like, I know I can't stop myself from doing this sin, so I plan on doing this good, so it'll nullify my bad. Like, say for example, like I like to go to the racetrack and I might bet on a horse or something like that. I know I'm going to go bet on this horse, so I'm going to, inshallah, if I win some money on the racetrack, I'm going to take all my halal money and give it to charity.
Clear.
Something like that. Like, do you still get a blessing for that, even though your intent,
Crystal clear.
your intention was to commit a sin and try to think you were going to erase it by doing a good deed?
Clear.
Is based off of your nafs, or your intentions? Do you still get that good?
Clear. Crystal clear. Right. So a person wants to do a sin, and the person knows and realizes their weakness. I can stay away from this. I can stay away from that. Looking in the mirror, me and you both know we going to the casino tonight. It's too hard. Just keeping it real. Can't stay away from it. I'm going. But inshallah, at the blackjack table or whatever other game I'm playing, I'm going to what? I'll make a couple, right? And I'll give some of that money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a real life question here. This is serious. And it's a reality. Or I'm going to do this haram act to get this permissible thing out of it. Perfect question. Do you still get the reward? So on and so forth. Like you said, compartments. There's several different compartments to this question. Compartment number 1 is the trick of shaitan. And some of the pious predecessors, they would say, shaitan will open up one door of good to get the slave to fall into 100 doors of evil. A trick. Come here, do this, give this, say this, and it leads you to what? 20 other vices. The games that shaitan plays with the son of Adam. لا يفتننكم الشيطان كما أخرج أبويكم من الجنة. Allah says, do not allow Satan to tempt you, to make you fall into infatuation like he did with your parents. He took your parents out of paradise. And he did what? يَنْزِعُ عَنْهُمَا. He removed their clothing from them, made them naked. He got them to think, and he made them to fall into disobeying Allah. Eat from the tree, and look what it led to. So that's point number one, is to be mindful of the tricks of shaitan. Be careful. Go there, do this. I'm going to go to the club, and I'm going to give da'wah to the Muslims in the club. It's an old one. It's a classic from the playbook. Huh? Right? That's an old school pick and roll right there. I'm going to go to the haram place with the intention of what? Bringing out the Muslims. And you may do that. You may give. I mean, how many people became guided through the club? It's a reality. I took my shahada in the club, somebody may say. I'm talking about Philly, man. I act like you guys don't know what I'm talking about. I took my shahada in the club. Muhammad Mujahid, right? I found my Zoja, what? In a club. I learned about the Sunnah, where what? In a club. He had a real big beard, a Sunnah, right? This is reality. And that, right, it may happen, but it don't mean that it's the proper way. Listen to this Jim, Ibn al-Qayyim, he says that the intellectuals, not just the Muslims, not just the scholars, the uqala, intellectuals, people who have brains, they are in total agreement, unanimous consensus, that the one who reaches a destination without the proper directions is considered a fool. The one who travels and he gets to where he wanted to go is considered a what? He's still a fool. Listen to this now. Listen, I got the GPS or MapQuest, or I have the map. I have the directions from the gas station, and I got lost. I didn't take the directions well. I turned off. It was cloudy. The satellite wasn't as fast as the car. You know, on the GPS, they rerouting. You're like, oh, come on, man, not now. Cars behind you, people beeping, they keep rerouting because you're driving too fast. The connection isn't strong enough. Versus a person who had no GPS, no map, no north, south, east, west. I'm just going to drive. And out of chance or luck, this is the store I wanted to get to. He says that all people of intellect agree that this person is considered a what? A fool, a safi. And that's the concept of I'm going to go to the racetrack, get the haram money to give sadaqah. You're a fool. Shaitan is using you to disobey Allah with the intention that you're going to spend. You may die. You may not want to give up the money. You may lose all your money. There's so many things that come between you and the sadaqah box. It's not a guarantee that you're going to give that halal money. So that's strike number one. Strike number two is the Prophet ﷺ says, "La yaqbalullahu salatan bighayri." Allah does not accept prayer unless that prayer has what? Tuhur. Wala sadaqa min ghulul. Nor charity from ill-gotten things, illicit and illegal things. So the wealth that's haram and khabith is of no value in sadaqah. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Clear. But the example of the casino or the racetrack, even if it's another example, that money that you got is haram money.
No, what I was saying was, you got some halal money.
Okay?
So if I win this money, I'm going to give all my halal money.
And I'm going to keep the haram money.
Yeah.
See, they go back to the first point. However, no problem. The money is related. They're cousins. However, for argument's sake, I have a haram business or haram income and I split up the money. It's possible for it to be accepted. And the scholars of Islam, they say if a person is going to make a hajj, to make the hajj min kasbin tayyib, clean wealth. But the problem is, how do you know what the wealth is clean and which wealth is dirty? It gets mixed up. Debts, where you stash it, where you save it, who you owe, where you get. And it's so many things that can come between you and that separation. But for argument's sake, if the wealth is halal, it's separated, it's not the haram wealth, total different story. Total different story. But that mindset right there is going to be disastrous. Shaitan, if he can get you there, he'll what? Get you, and then the actual haram money. So I gotta get rid of the haram money, so let me give it in sadaqah. FYI, last thing I'll say, this is very important. Even if a Muslim gave sadaqah from haram wealth, it's better than nothing. And perhaps that'll be a reason behind Allah guiding him and giving him the strength to leave off the haram way of getting the money. Drug dealer, he comes with a big bag of money. Just take this for the masjid. Can you take the money or not is a different argument. We're not getting into that argument right now. But the sheer fact that he feels bad. he has some type of remorse. And he knows that he has a lump sum of money. Let me just what? Give some to the Muslims. That's better than him what? Saying, oh, I'm going to give sadaqah when I get the halal money. And he may die without even giving anything. And the same applies to having haram wealth, such as from riba, doing nothing with the money versus getting rid of it. And there's a difference between sadaqah and getting rid of. Two different concepts now. There's no point in the money being wasted. There's no point in the what? The money just going down the drain. It doesn't mean that it's sadaqah that Allah will accept and allow to grow large and big on the day of judgment. Doesn't mean that. But it's still better than squandering the money, and it's a movement in the right direction. And Allah knows best. See what we got online, inshallah, before we stop. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Khair, inshallah. May Allah bless all of you guys. Ameen. For watching. All praises due to Allah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.